The escape shuttle was burning when it landed on the platform at Earth Command. Smoke poured from its damaged engines, and the metal hull was covered in scorch marks from weapons fire. Emergency crews rushed forward with foam and water, but before they could reach the door, it opened from inside. Captain Lisa Grant stumbled out into the cold morning air. Her uniform was torn and covered in ash. Blood had dried on the side of her face from a wound on her forehead. She had not slept in 3 days. She had not eaten in 2. But she was alive, and she carried something more important than her own life in her hands. It was a small data chip. The only surviving record of what happened to New Haven. Admiral Jack Morrison was waiting for her at the edge of the platform. He was a tall man in his 60s, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many wars. When he saw Lisa walking toward him, he felt his heart grow cold. He had known her for 15 years. He had never seen her look so broken. "Admiral," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They are all gone. Every single one of them." Morrison took her arm and helped her walk inside. He did not ask questions yet. He could see that she was barely holding herself together. Whatever she had witnessed, it had nearly destroyed her. They took her to the medical bay first, where doctors cleaned her wounds and gave her water. Then they brought her to the command center, a massive room filled with screens and officers who fell silent when she entered. Morrison sat her down at the central table and took the data chip from her shaking hands. "Show us," he said quietly. The footage began to play on the main screen. At first, it showed the colony of New Haven from orbit. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green forests. The colony had been built 20 years ago on the planet called Kepler 442b. More than 2 million people lived there. Families, children, farmers and teachers and engineers, who had traveled across the stars to build a new home. Then, the Vorthax ships appeared. There were hundreds of them. Massive warships with hulls the color of dried blood. They came out of faster than light travel in perfect formation, surrounding the planet like a net. Lisa's voice came through the recording, captured from her ship's communication system. "Vorthax Fleet, this is Captain Lisa Grant of the United Earth Navy. Please state your intentions. New Haven is a civilian colony. We have no military targets here." There was no response. The Vorthax ships simply moved into position around the planet. Then they opened fire. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. The Vorthax used plasma weapons that burned through the atmosphere and struck the surface with the force of nuclear explosions. Cities vanished in seconds. Forests turned to ash. The oceans boiled where the weapons hit the water. Lisa had been on patrol at the edge of the system when the attack began. She tried to help. She flew her small ship toward the planet, firing at the Vorthax vessels, even though she knew it was hopeless. Her weapons did nothing against their shields. They shot her down easily, and she crashed on one of the planet's moons. From there, she watched New Haven die. The footage showed everything. The screaming on the communication channels as people begged for help that would never come. The bright flashes of light as city after city was destroyed. The silence that followed when there was no one left to scream. When the video ended, no one in the command center spoke. Admiral Morrison stood with his hands flat on the table, his knuckles white from pressing down so hard. His face showed no emotion, but inside, something had changed forever. "How many?" he asked. 2.3 million, Lisa answered. "That was the last census count. There are no survivors, Admiral. I searched for 3 days. There is nothing left but glass and ash." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. 2.3 million people. Men and women who had trusted their government to protect them. Children who had never done anything wrong to anyone. All of them burned to death because the Vorthax decided they should die. Why? Someone asked from the back of the room. Why would they do this? "I do not know," Lisa said. They never spoke to us. They never made demands. They just came and started killing. Morrison opened his eyes. He turned to his communication officer. Get me Ambassador Cole. I want to speak with him immediately. Ambassador Henry Cole was Earth's senior diplomat to the Galactic Council. He had spent 30 years building relationships with alien species, trying to secure humanity's place in the larger universe. When Morrison reached him, Cole was already aware of what had happened. I have spoken with the Council, Cole said, his face appearing on the screen. They will not help us, Jack. They say this is an internal matter for the Vorthax Dominion. They called it a security action. A security action, Morrison repeated. The words tasted like poison in his mouth. They murdered 2 million civilians and the Council calls it a security action. The Vorthax are powerful, Jack. The Council is afraid of them. Morrison nodded slowly. He had expected this. The galaxy was full of species who talked about peace and cooperation, but when it came time to stand against evil, they always found reasons to look away. Then we will handle this ourselves, Morrison said. Tell the Council that Earth no longer requires their assistance, and tell them to stay out of our way. He ended the call and turned to face the officers in the command center. Every eye was on him, waiting for orders. He could see the anger in their faces, the grief, the desperate need to do something. Activate the emergency fleet protocol, Morrison said. Send the order to every colony world, every shipyard, every factory. I want full mobilization within 30 days. Sir, his tactical officer said carefully, full mobilization would mean pulling resources from civilian projects across the entire sphere. It would take years to build a fleet large enough to challenge the Vorthax. Then we will take years, Morrison said. However long it takes. However many ships we need. The Vorthax believe they can murder our people without consequence. They believe we are too weak to fight back. He paused and looked at the frozen image on the screen, the last frame of New Haven burning. They are wrong, and we are going to teach them exactly how wrong they are. Captain Lisa Grant stood up from her chair. Her wounds were bandaged now, but the pain in her eyes would take much longer to heal. Admiral, I want to be part of this. I want to fight. Morrison looked at her for a long moment. She had lost everything. Her crew, her friends, her home. She had every right to rest, to grieve, to walk away from the military forever. But he understood what she needed. She needed purpose. She needed justice. You will have your fight, Captain, he said. I promise you that. Across 200 human colony worlds, the order went out that night. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels switched to warship production. Factories that made farming equipment began making weapons. Young men and women lined up at recruitment centers, driven by grief and anger and a deep human need to protect their own. The galaxy had ignored humanity's pain. The Vorthax had laughed at humanity's weakness. They would not be laughing for much longer. 3 months had passed since New Haven burned, and the galaxy was beginning to notice something strange. Human ships were disappearing from trade routes. Human colonies were going quiet. Factories that once sold goods to alien merchants had closed their doors without explanation. On Vorthax Prime, the capital world of the Dominion, Grand Admiral Zethrak read the intelligence reports with growing annoyance. The humans were apparently upset about the destruction of their little colony. They were building ships. They were making threats. How many vessels do they have? He asked his intelligence officer. Our spies report increased activity at their shipyards, Grand Admiral. Perhaps a few thousand new ships over the next year. Zethrak made a sound that was the Vorthax equivalent of laughter. His species had ruled this section of the galaxy for 800 years. They had conquered dozens of worlds. Their fleet numbered over 200,000 warships, each one built for war. A few thousand ships, he said. "Let them come. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later." He dismissed the report and returned to more important matters. The humans were insects. They had been insects before New Haven, and they would remain insects forever. The galaxy belonged to the strong, and the Vorthax were the strongest of all. He was very, very wrong. On Earth, Admiral Morrison stood in the underground command center that had become his home for the past 3 months. He had barely slept. He had barely eaten. But he had accomplished something that would have seemed impossible just 1 year ago. "Give me the current count," he said to Commander Ben Carter, his chief tactical officer. Carter pulled up the numbers on the main screen. "As of this morning, we have 412,000 completed warships. Another 200,000 are in final construction. We expect to reach full mobilization within 60 days. Morrison nodded. The numbers were staggering, even to him. Humanity had spent decades building ships in secret, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. The Vorthax attack had simply given them a reason to finish the job. And the new weapon systems? Morrison asked. Dr. Corinne Wells stepped forward. She was a small woman with white hair and glasses, and she looked more like a grandmother than the most dangerous weapons scientist in human history. "All systems are ready for deployment, Admiral. The quantum disruption missiles can penetrate any known shield technology. The gravity well generators can trap entire fleets in place. And our targeting systems can coordinate attacks across thousands of ships simultaneously. The Vorthax have no idea what they are facing," Carter said with grim satisfaction. "That is the point," Morrison replied. "We have spent 50 years letting the galaxy believe we are weak. We have hidden our true capabilities because we never wanted to use them. But now we have no choice." He turned to face the officers gathered in the room. "In 60 days we move. 700,000 ships. The largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. The Vorthax killed 2.3 million of our people. They will answer for every single one." Across the room, Captain Lisa Graham listened in silence. She had spent the past 3 months training, preparing, and trying not to think about the faces of the people she had failed to save. Morrison had promoted her and given her command of a special squadron. Ships named after the destroyed cities of New Haven. The Grant, her flagship, carried the name of her own family who had died in the attack. She would carry their memory into battle. She would make sure their deaths meant something. On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Henry Cole delivered humanity's final message to the Galactic Council. He stood before the assembled representatives of 40 different species. Aliens of all shapes and sizes who had watched the destruction of New Haven and done nothing. 3 months ago, Cole said, "we came to this council asking for justice. We asked you to condemn the unprovoked murder of 2.3 million innocent civilians. We asked you to stand with us against aggression and evil." The chamber was silent. The alien representatives watched him with expressions ranging from guilt to indifference. "You refused," Cole continued. "You called genocide a security action. You chose to protect your trade agreements and your political alliances instead of doing what was right. So let me be very clear about what happens next." He paused and looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative. "Humanity is going to war with the Vorthax Dominion. We are not asking for your help. We are not asking for your permission. We are simply informing you of what is about to happen. And we are giving you one warning." His voice grew cold and hard. "Stay out of our way. Any species that interferes with our fleet, any species that provides aid to the Vorthax, will be treated as an enemy of humanity. We did not start this war, but we are going to finish it. And when we are done, the galaxy will never forget what happens when you harm our people." He walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. Behind him, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Several of them immediately contacted their homeworlds with urgent warnings. The humans were not behaving like a weak species. They were behaving like something far more dangerous. Over the next few weeks, the Vorthax High Command began receiving disturbing reports. Human scout ships were appearing at their border systems. When Vorthax patrols tried to destroy them, the human ships simply retreated and reappeared somewhere else. It was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. "They are testing our defenses," one of Zithrak's advisors warned. "They are learning our patrol patterns and response times." "Then destroy them," Zithrak ordered impatiently. "Send a battle group to their border and show them what happens when they challenge the Dominion." A Vorthax battle group of 50 warships jumped to the human border. They found a single human cruiser waiting for them. The Vorthax commander laughed and ordered his ships to attack. The human cruiser did not run. Instead, it broadcast a message. "This is Captain Ryan Torres of the United Earth Navy. You are about to make a terrible mistake. Turn around now, and you will be allowed to leave safely. Continue forward, and you will see exactly what humanity is capable of." The Vorthax commander ignored the warning. His 50 ships opened fire on the single human vessel. Captain Torres smiled and activated his ship's weapons. In less than 30 seconds, all 50 Vorthax warships were destroyed. Their shields had not even slowed down the human weapons. Their armor had melted like ice in a furnace. Torres broadcast a final message to any Vorthax ships that might be listening. That was a demonstration. "We have 699,999 more ships just like this one. We are coming for you, and there is nothing you can do to stop us." The report reached Grand Admiral Zethrak within the hour. For the first time, he felt something he had not felt in decades. It was a cold sensation in his chest, a tightness that made it hard to breathe. It was fear. He ordered his intelligence division to gather every piece of information they could find about the human fleet. What came back made the fear grow even stronger. The humans did not have a few thousand ships. They did not have a few tens of thousands. They had 700,000 warships. Every single one of them was more advanced than anything the Vorthax had ever seen. And they were all pointing straight at the heart of the Dominion. Zithrak realized, far too late, that the Vorthax had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked what they thought was a weak and helpless species. They had poked what they believed was a sleeping animal, but humanity had never been asleep. Humanity had been waiting, and now humanity was awake, angry, and coming for revenge. The storm was about to break. The day the human fleet arrived at the Vorthax border was the day the galaxy changed forever. Across 100 different worlds, alien species watched their sensors and could not believe what they were seeing. 700,000 warships, arranged in perfect formation, stretching across space like an ocean of metal and fury. Grand Admiral Zethrak stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the tactical display. His border defense fleet of 40,000 vessels was positioned between the humans and Vorthax territory. It was the largest defensive force the Dominion had ever assembled in one place. Against any other species, it would have been more than enough. Against the humans, it looked like a wall of paper trying to stop a flood. "All ships, prepare for battle," Zethrak ordered. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. He had been a warrior for 60 years. He had never known fear until this moment. On the human flagship, Admiral Morrison watched the Vorthax fleet with cold eyes. Commander Claire Hudson stood beside him, leading the vanguard strike force that would make first contact with the enemy. "They are not retreating," Hudson observed. "They still think they can win. Then we will teach them otherwise," Morrison replied. "All ships, weapons free. Commander Hudson, you may begin." The human fleet moved forward like a single living creature. Every ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. Decades of preparation had created a military force that operated with perfect coordination, thousands of vessels acting as one unified weapon. The Vorthax opened fire first. Plasma bolts shrieked across space, slamming into the human shields. On a normal day, against a normal enemy, those weapons would have torn through armor and destroyed anything in their path. Thought the human shields did not even flicker. Then, the humans fired back. Quantum disruption. Missiles launched from 10,000 ships simultaneously. They moved faster than the Vorthax sensors could track, passing through shields as if they did not exist. Each missile found its target with perfect accuracy, striking the weak points that human intelligence had identified months ago. Vorthax warships began to explode. First 10, then 100, then 1,000. The border fleet that had seemed so powerful moments ago was being torn apart like wet paper. Grand Admiral Zethrak screamed orders at his officers. "Return fire! All ships, concentrate your weapons on their lead vessels." It made no difference. The human ships moved in patterns the Vorthax had never seen before, dodging and weaving while maintaining their devastating fire. Gravity well generators activated, trapping clusters of Vorthax ships in place while human weapons destroyed them at leisure. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 40,000 Vorthax warships had been reduced to floating debris. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed. A few had minor damage. Most had not been hit at all. Zethrak stood on his bridge, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet. His command ship had survived only because the humans had deliberately spared it. He understood why. They wanted him to watch. They wanted him to report back to his leaders exactly what had happened. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked tired and sad, like a man who had been forced to do something terrible. "Grand Admiral Zethrak," Morrison said, "you killed 2.3 million of our people. Innocent civilians who had done nothing wrong. Today, you have seen what happens when humanity decides to fight. This is your only warning. What do you want?" Zethrak asked. His voice was hollow. "I want justice," Morrison replied. "Your leaders ordered the attack on New Haven. They will answer for their crimes. If you surrender now and hand them over, we will spare your people. If you continue to fight, we will destroy every military asset your Dominion possesses. The choice is yours." The communication ended. Zethrak was left staring at empty space and the wreckage of everything he had believed about human weakness. Over the next several days, the human fleet advanced into Vorthax territory. They did not attack civilian populations. They did not bomb cities or burn colonies. Instead, they targeted military installations with surgical precision, shipyards, weapons factories, defense stations. Each one was destroyed completely, leaving nothing behind but twisted metal. The Vorthax tried to resist. They sent fleet after fleet against the human advance. Each time, the result was the same. Human weapons cut through Vorthax defenses like a hot knife through butter. Human tactics left Vorthax commanders confused and helpless. On the Vorthax homeworld, Council Speaker Morvith watched the reports with growing despair. He had warned the High Command against attacking New Haven. He had told them that humans were more dangerous than they appeared. No one had listened. Now his species was paying the price. "We must contact the Galactic Council," Morvith said desperately. "We must ask for their help." The High Command laughed at him. "The Council will not help us. They are too afraid." They were not afraid to ignore the human request for justice, Morvith snapped. "Perhaps they will be afraid enough of humanity now to intervene on our behalf." He sent the message anyway. The Galactic Council received it within hours. Their response came back almost immediately. "The Council has reviewed your request for military assistance against the United Earth Navy. after careful consideration, the Council has decided not to intervene in this conflict. We wish the Vorthax Dominion well and hope for a peaceful resolution. Morveth stared at the message in disbelief. The same council that had refused to help humanity was now refusing to help the Vorthax. They were not choosing sides. They were simply staying out of the way of the storm. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued its advance. Commander Hudson led her vanguard force through system after system, clearing the path for the main fleet behind her. She fought with cold efficiency, destroying enemy ships without hesitation but always accepting surrenders when they were offered. Admiral Morrison had given strict orders. No unnecessary killing. No attacks on civilians. No revenge that crossed the line into cruelty. This was not about hatred. This was about justice. Captain Lisa Grant followed behind the vanguard with her memorial squadron. Her ships, named after the destroyed cities of New Haven, served as a constant reminder of why they were fighting. She had expected to feel satisfaction as she watched the Vorthax military crumble. Instead, she felt only emptiness. Destroying the Vorthax would not bring back the people she had lost. Nothing would bring them back. But she could make sure they were remembered. She could make sure their deaths had meaning. 1 month after the first battle, the human fleet reached the edge of the Vorthax home system. 700,000 ships surrounded the path to Vorthax Prime, the heart of the Dominion. The remaining Vorthax military, barely 5,000 vessels, stood between humanity and their homeworld. Admiral Morrison looked at the tactical display and felt the weight of what was about to happen. With a single order, he could end the Vorthax civilization forever. He could bomb their cities, kill their people, and erase them from history the same way they had erased New Haven. But that was not why he had come. All ships, hold position, he ordered. No one fires unless fired upon. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to deliver justice. The human fleet stopped and waited. The Vorthax defenders stared at them in confusion and fear. They had expected death. They had expected the same kind of merciless destruction they had inflicted on New Haven. Instead, the humans simply waited. Their weapons ready but silent, Morrison opened a communication channel to the entire Vorthax home system. "People of the Vorthax Dominion," he said. "I am Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Navy. We have come a long way, and we have destroyed many of your ships. But we have not come to destroy you. We have come to deliver a message and to seek justice for the 2.3 million innocent people your leaders murdered." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "Your military cannot stop us. Your defenses cannot protect you. We could burn your world the way you burned ours. But we will not, because we are not like you. We do not murder innocents. We do not destroy civilizations for power or pride." His voice grew harder. "But there will be consequences. Your leaders will answer for their crimes. And your people will learn exactly who they killed when they attacked New Haven. Justice is coming, and no force in the galaxy can stop it." The transmission ended. Across Vorthax Prime, millions of citizens watched and listened and wondered what would happen next. The humans had come for revenge. But what they were about to deliver was something far more powerful. The human fleet had stopped at the edge of the Vorthax home system, but the war was far from over. Behind the front lines, thousands of Vorthax military installations still operated in the occupied territories. Pockets of resistance formed and were crushed. Commanders who refused to surrender were captured and detained. Captain Ryan Torres led one of the most important missions of the war. His target was the Vorthax Supreme Command Station, a massive orbital fortress where Grand Admiral Zethrak had retreated after the first battle. The station was defended by 2,000 warships and protected by the most advanced shields the Vorthax had ever. Torres took it in 3 hours. His strike force moved with precision that the Vorthax could not understand. Every attack came from an unexpected angle. Every weapon found the perfect weak point. The defending fleet was destroyed piece by piece while the human ships danced around their return fire like ghosts. When the shields finally fell, Torres boarded the station with a team of Marines. They fought their way through corridors filled with Vorthax soldiers, pushing deeper into the fortress until they reached the command center. Grand Admiral Zethrak was waiting for them. He stood alone in the middle of the room, his officers dead or fled around him. In his hand, he held a weapon pointed at his own head. "Stay back," he hissed. "I will not be taken prisoner by animals." Torres lowered his rifle and held up his empty hands. "We are not here to kill you, Grand Admiral. We are here to take you to trial." "Trial?" Zethrak laughed bitterly. "What trial? You have already destroyed my fleet. You have conquered my territory. What more do you want?" "We want you to answer for what you did to New Haven," Torres said simply. 2.3 million people died because you gave the order. We want to know why." Zethrak stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "You truly do not understand, do you?" he said quietly. "We attacked New Haven because we could. Because humans are weak. Because the galaxy respects only power, and we wanted to show everyone that we were the strongest." Torres felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "You killed 2 million civilians to send a message? That is how the galaxy works," Zethrak said. "The strong take what they want. The weak accept what they are given. Your species should have learned your place." "We did learn something," Torres replied. "We learned that we were wrong to hide our strength. We learned that there are species in this galaxy who only understand force. And we learned that sometimes good people have to fight." He gestured to his Marines. "Take him into custody. He has a trial to attend." Zethrak was transported to a human prison ship where he would wait until the war was over. But before he was taken away, Captain Lisa Grant requested permission to speak with him. Admiral Morrison granted her request, though he warned her not to do anything she would regret. Grant entered the holding cell alone. Zethrak looked up at her with contempt. "Another human come to gloat," he said. "How tiresome." Grant did not respond to his insult. Instead, she pulled out a small tablet and activated it. Images began to appear on the screen. "This is Maria Santos," Grant said, showing a picture of a young woman with dark hair and a bright smile. She was 23 years old. She worked at a school in New Haven, teaching children how to read. She wanted to write books someday. She swiped to the next image. This is Daniel Park. He was 8 years old. He loved building model spaceships with his father. He wanted to be a pilot when he grew up. Another image. This is the Foster family. Rebecca, age 41. Christopher, age 44. Their children, Amy and Lucas, ages 12 and 14. They moved to New Haven because they wanted to raise their kids somewhere peaceful. She continued showing pictures, one after another. Faces of every age, every background. Young and old. Children and grandparents. Each one with a name and a story. "I could show you 2.3 million more," Grant said quietly. "I could spend the rest of my life telling you about every single person you killed. But I only have one question for you, Grand Admiral." She leaned closer, her eyes boring into his. "Why? Why did these people have to die? What had they ever done to you?" Zethrak was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. Some of the arrogance had faded. "We did not think of them as people," he admitted. "We thought of them as numbers, statistics, a demonstration of our power." He paused. "We were wrong." Grant stood up and turned off the tablet. "Yes," she said. "You were." She left the cell without another word. Behind her, Zethrak sat alone with the images of the dead still burning in his mind, while the prisoners were being processed. Admiral Morrison made a decision that surprised everyone, including his own officers. He ordered the fleet to deliver humanitarian aid to Vorthak's civilian populations. "Sir?" Commander Carter said, confusion clear on his face. "These are the people who cheered when New Haven burned." "No," Morrison replied. "These are civilians who were told lies by their government. They celebrated because they were taught to celebrate. They did not drop the bombs. They did not give the orders. And we will not punish them for the crimes of their leaders." Human ships began delivering food, medicine, and supplies to Vorthak's colonies, whose infrastructure had been damaged in the fighting. At first, the Vorthak civilians were terrified. They expected to be killed or enslaved. Instead, they were given clean water and medical care. The news spread quickly across the Dominion. The humans were not monsters. The humans were not burning cities or killing families. The humans were showing mercy to their enemies. On Vorthak's prime, protests began to break out. Citizens who had supported the war now questioned their leaders. Why had they attacked New Haven? Why had they started a war they could not win? Why had they lied about the nature of humanity? The Vorthak's high command tried to maintain control, but their power was slipping away. Every day, more citizens demanded answers. Every day, more soldiers refused to fight. The Dominion was crumbling from within. Morrison watched the intelligence reports with quiet satisfaction. This was the plan all along. He did not want to destroy the Vorthak's people. He wanted to destroy the system that had allowed their leaders to commit genocide without consequence. "The fleet will advance to Vorthak's prime in 24 hours, he announced. "We will surround the planet and demand the surrender of the High Command. If they refuse, we will wait until their own people remove them from power. And if their people do not remove them?" Carter asked. Morrison's eyes grew hard. "Then we will remove them ourselves. But we will do it surgically. We will target the leaders and their personal guards. We will not harm civilians. We will not become the monsters they accused us of being." The fleet moved forward. 700,000 ships surrounded Vorthak's prime, filling the sky with metal and light. The remaining Vorthak's military, broken and demoralized, did not even attempt to resist. On the surface, the High Command gathered in their fortified bunker and argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the death. A few suggested fleeing the planet and rebuilding elsewhere. None of their plans would matter. Outside the bunker, Vorthak citizens were gathering by the millions. They had seen the human ships deliver aid to their colonies. They had heard the broadcasts explaining what really happened at New Haven, and they had finally understood the truth. Their leaders had committed mass murder. Their leaders had started a war based on arrogance and cruelty. And their leaders had brought the fury of humanity down upon them all. The Vorthak's people were done waiting for justice. They were going to deliver it themselves. The siege of Vorthak's prime lasted exactly 48 hours. During that time, not a single shot was fired. The human fleet simply waited in orbit, watching and listening as the Vorthak civilization tore itself apart from within. The protests had started small, but they grew with every passing hour. Millions of Vorthak citizens flooded the streets of their capital city, demanding answers from their leaders. They carried images of the dead from New Haven, faces they had downloaded from human broadcasts. They chanted the names of the destroyed cities, learning to pronounce words like Chicago, Tokyo, Mumbai, and Cairo. Inside the government bunker, the Vorthak's high command watched their power crumble. Armed guards, who had sworn to protect them, began laying down their weapons and walking away. Communication officers refused to send out propaganda. Even the most loyal supporters started to question whether they were on the right side. Council Speaker Morvith, the one leader who had opposed the New Haven attack from the beginning, stepped forward to address the High Command. "It is over," he said. "The people have made their choice. We can surrender now with dignity, or we can be dragged out by our own citizens. Either way, we will face human justice." "Never," the Supreme Chancellor snarled. He was an old Vorthax with gray scales and eyes full of hatred. "I would rather die than surrender to those animals." "Then you will die," Morvith replied calmly. "But the rest of us choose to live." "Guards, place the Chancellor under arrest." The guards hesitated for only a moment. Then they moved forward and seized the Chancellor before he could react. The other members of the High Command surrendered without resistance. The war, for all practical purposes, was over. Morvith contacted the human fleet and requested permission to begin surrender negotiations. Admiral Morrison agreed to receive him aboard the flagship. The meeting took place in a simple conference room. Morvith had expected something grand and intimidating, but the humans had chosen a space that was almost modest. Admiral Morrison sat at the head of the table, flanked by Captain Grant and Commander Hudson. His face showed no emotion. "Council Speaker," Morrison said, "I understand you opposed the attack on New Haven." "I did," Morvith replied. "I told them it was madness. I told them humans were more dangerous than they appeared. No one listened. Why did you oppose it?" Morvith was quiet for a moment. "Because I spent time among your people many years ago. I served as a diplomatic observer on one of your colony worlds. I saw how you treated each other, how you cared for your children, how you worked together to build something better. I knew then that humans were not the weak species our leaders believed." Morrison nodded slowly. "Then you understand why we are here." "I do. And I accept full responsibility for the failures of my government." Morvith lowered his head. "We offer our unconditional surrender. Whatever terms you demand, we will accept." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "We do not want unconditional surrender. We want justice." He pulled up a document on the table's display screen. "These are our terms. First, every member of the High Command who voted for or supported the New Haven attack will stand trial for crimes against humanity. They will be judged fairly, with evidence and witnesses. If convicted, they will spend the rest of their lives in prison." Morvith nodded. "Agreed." "Second, the Vorthax Dominion will pay reparations to the families of the New Haven victims. Not in money or resources, but in labor. Your people will help us build a memorial on the site where New Haven once stood. They will learn every name of every person who died. They will understand exactly who they killed." "Agreed," Morvith said again, his voice heavy with shame. "Third, you will reform your government. No more military conquest. No more attacks on civilian populations. If we ever see Vorthax warships threatening innocent people again, we will return. And next time, we will not be so merciful." Morvith met Morrison's eyes. "I give you my word. The Vorthax people have learned a lesson we will never forget. We will change. We must change." Morrison stood and extended his hand. It was an ancient human gesture of peace and agreement. Morvith hesitated, then reached out and took it. "The war is over," Morrison said. "Let us hope we never have to fight another one." The formal surrender ceremony took place 3 days later on the surface of Vorthax Prime. Admiral Morrison stood before cameras that broadcast to every world in the Dominion and beyond. The entire galaxy was watching. "Today marks the end of a war that should never have been fought," Morrison began. 14 months ago, the Vorthax Dominion attacked a peaceful human colony called New Haven. They killed 2.3 million innocent people. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong. Families who simply wanted to build a better life among the stars. He paused, letting the weight of those numbers settle over the audience. We came here with 700,000 warships. We had the power to destroy the Vortex civilization completely. We could have killed billions in revenge for the millions we lost. Some of you expected us to do exactly that. His voice grew stronger. But we are not the Vortex. We do not murder innocents. We do not destroy civilizations for power or pride. We came here to seek justice, not revenge. And today, we have achieved that goal. He gestured to the Vortex leaders who stood behind him in chains. These individuals ordered the attack on New Haven. They will stand trial for their crimes. If convicted, they will be punished according to human law. This is not cruelty. This is justice. There is a difference. Morrison looked directly into the camera. To the rest of the galaxy, I have a simple message. Humanity does not seek war. We do not want to conquer your worlds or steal your resources. We want to live in peace, to explore the stars, to build something better for our children and yours. But we will defend ourselves, and we will protect the innocent. His eyes hardened. Never forget what you saw here today. 700,000 ships. The largest fleet in galactic history. We built this because we had to. We hoped we would never use it. But when our people were murdered, when justice was denied, we did not hesitate. We did not forgive. We did not forget. He stepped back from the podium. Remember New Haven. Remember what happens when you harm our people. And pray that you never give us a reason to return. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, alien species sat in shocked silence. The humans had won a total victory against one of the most powerful empires in known space. And then they had shown mercy. It was the mercy that frightened them most of all. 1 year later, Captain Lisa Grant stood on the surface of Kepler 442b. The world that had once held New Haven was still scarred and burned. But something new had grown among the ashes. The memorial stretched for kilometers in every direction. Walls of polished stone carved with 2.3 million names. Gardens filled with flowers from 100 different worlds. Fountains that played soft music in memory of the dead. Vortex workers had helped build every piece of it. They had learned the names. They had heard the stories. Many of them had wept as they understood, for the first time, the true weight of what their leaders had done. Grant walked among the names until she found the ones she was looking for. Her parents. Her sister. Her friends. She knelt down and touched the cool stone. "We did it," she whispered. "We made them remember. We made them understand." She stayed there for a long time, tears running down her face. When she finally stood, she felt something she had not felt in years. Peace. Admiral Morrison retired 2 months after the memorial was completed. His final log entry was simple and direct. "We came with 700,000 warships. We could have ended them. We could have burned their worlds and killed their children and called it justice. But we chose a different path. We showed them who we truly are." He paused before adding the final words. "That is humanity's greatest victory. Not the ships we built, not the battles we won, but the choice we made when we had the power to do anything. We chose mercy. We chose justice. We chose to be better than our enemies." He closed the log and looked out at the stars. That is what it means to be human.